Hi there, my name is Hannah. Thank you so much for coming to my channel where I talk all things costuming, cosplay, and live events. Today I am going to show you how I made a prop for less than $5. Let's get started. So the goal behind this is a lot of times when I am out with the 501st Legion trooping in my Jawa costume, one thing that I typically do, because I'm a taller Jawa, so sometimes kids can get a little scared, I like to literally sit on the ground and like hand out my little trinkets. It's like little steampunk gears and things like that. It's just a little keepsake for the kids. But I like getting down, sitting down, kind of like I'm trading in the market. And so I'll be on the floor with them the whole time. And that's getting a little uncomfortable. Like, depending on where we are, it's not always comfortable to do that. So I kind of got this idea. I was like, well, what if I make like an in universe ish cushion for my Jawa? And I kind of took it from there. I also didn't want to spend a ton of money on this. This was like, it's over Christmas break and I'm going to make something fun. Let's go, right? What I used to make this, I used my leftover Jawa fabric. So I had a couple large pieces of monk's cloth left over from when I dyed my Jawa costume. Some thread. I was out of brown thread to match, but I used black and it didn't really matter. You'll see why in a little bit. And I used a ton of leftover fabric scraps. I have this giant reusable tote bag full of scraps from fabric projects. So every time I've made a dress or a skirt or anything for the Ren Fair or anything like that, in the last several years, I keep all those scraps and even a couple old t-shirts that are like stained or like have like paint on them or they're getting holes or something like that. So I had this massive stash and I was like, I need to use this for something because it's really kind of getting in the way and I need to make room for more projects. So that's pretty much all I used. Well, actually, my crafting tools, I did use a sewing machine and some chalk, a ruler, and some scissors, of course. So basically, I got started out by creating two big circles in the fabric. I folded the fabric in half and then took an 18-inch ruler and just kind of made a semicircle on the fold of the fabric. That turned out to be huge. I got 18 from some sort of online article I read about something similar. I looked at how big it was and I was like, this is massive. So I went back to the drawing board on that and cut it down. So I did the same thing, but with a 12-inch ruler. So diameter of about 24 inches. It's still a little big, but I'm happy with the size and how it turned out. And then so I've got those two circles with the 24 inches around and, or 24 inches across, I'm sorry. And then I have like a 5-ish inch to like close up the sides. So I've got two circles and then to close the side around. And this is all my scrap fabric from when I created my Jawa a couple years ago. So once I got that, I started putting these sides on the circle. I put them on, and I'm not really caring about what's the top and what's the bottom on this. I want it to look lived in and used and like it could be on the sand crawler. So it's not neat and pristine. So I attach all of those and I leave the seam allowance on the outside to do a little something with later. So I'm attaching all the fabric pieces, sewing them together, top and bottom pieces with the side panel. So we've got a big donut, essentially, donut with no opening in the middle. And I left a couple inches open and I started to layer in all my fabric scraps. So I actually had some really nice, like faux fur, like shearling type stuff that I used a bunch of that. I used it to make a coat a couple years ago and I had a ton of it left, but like weird shaped pieces. So I was like, this is it. I'm going to use these and it's going to be really comfortable. So I layered those kind of on the base of the circle as much as I could, like evenly distributing it. And once I got that in, I went over to my other big bag of smaller fabric scraps, t-shirts, things like that, and just started literally shoving everything in. I could have stuffed it a little bit more, but I kind of left it some loosey-goosey room so it can kind of shift around a little bit and again give it that more worn-in look. So once I got all of those pieces in there, then I sewed it up. I will also say I added like a little strap onto it so I can like pull it if I need to, because it's kind of heavy. It's not the lightest thing in the world due to its size and what's inside of it. It does have some weight to it. So if I ever need to like pull it rather than whatever, I have a strap there. Great. So everything's there. All the seam allowance is on the outside. It's stuffed. I could have left it like that, but I was like, this is missing something. So what I actually did on all of the seam allowance around the entire thing, I took these little hairbrush cleaners where you can go in and like scrape out the hair in your hairbrush, and I took that to all of the seam allowance. I should mention I did a zigzag stitch on all of my stitching to help with the movement of the fabric, and I knew I was going to be kind of rough on these seams, so I did a zigzag just to help it be a little sturdier. So I went through that hairbrush pick and I scraped the ever-loving life out of every single seam and all of the extra seam allowance. So I got a nice big pile of like weaves of the monk's cloth, and it created this really nice frayed edge all around. And after that was done, I could have also left it that. I could have left it there and been done. The bonus of kind of going through with this brush and taking this extra fabric out is that I'm leaving behind significantly less fabric pieces as I take it places. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to be like creating this whole mess with it wherever I go. I've already gotten a lot of that mess out, and it's going to be better than if I had not. And then I was like, let's grime it up some more. So what I did, I guess I didn't talk about this in my supplies list, but I also had these things on hand. I just had some black and some brown acrylic paint and this giant paintbrush I had from when I took scenic painting in college. And I mixed those two together and I watered it down really, really good. And I started going in and making all of the edges of the donut a lot darker. So like wear and tear darker on the edges. And then on both sides of it, I did also do a little like splash, like flicking paint a little bit, one side more so than the other, kind of be like an oil spill or something. You know, Jawa's tinkering, there's oil, there's just going to be dirt, you know. And I also did the same thing to my little handle. And then I was like, this is probably going to be like the dirtiest part of it, right? So after I had done both sides, I did one side and then waited like a day for it to dry, flipped it over to the other side. At the end of that, I literally just took the strap and I just got it in the paint, and I just like went like this, and then I was like, oh, it's not like gross enough. So I literally dipped it down in the paint water, and yeah, I think it ended up really well. Like it looks a lot darker than everything else. It looks nastier than everything else. So I said I made this for less than $5, and it's true because I literally already had all of this stuff here. So I didn't really spend a lot, but the reason I'm even giving a value to it is because I think you could create something similar to this spending about $5 on some utility fabric at Joann or something similar. If you didn't already have fabric to make these big circles out of for this cushion, you could probably get something like that with a coupon, a couple yards, for relatively inexpensive. And then everything else I was just lucky enough to have on hand because I do have my own studio here, and I am a craft hoarder, and I have craft supplies in here that I've literally had since college. Hence that college scenic painting brush I used to add this watered down paint all over this cushion. And the bonus to that is also I did a lot of upcycling. Like I have all of these scraps for literal years. At least 5 years, I think I've had these scraps waiting to use them for something, and here it is. I'm upcycling them. I'm putting it into something I'm going to cosplay, I'm going to bring with me when I go out in my Jawa. I will say not every time I make an appearance as a Jawa is it appropriate to bring something like this, so there's only a handful during the year that I will want to have something like this with me if I know I'm going to be in a spot where I'm going to be sitting down most of the time. Absolutely. Other times, if I know I'm going to be walking around a lot just due to the environment, I'm not going to bring it. It's heavy, it's big, there's not really a point in me bringing it. But yeah, so I'm really excited to be a little bit more comfortable when I am on the ground with the kids, trading and having some really good interaction with folks who love Star Wars as well. I'm planning to kind of thrift another prop to go along with this, hoping to not spend more than $5 there as well. I'm looking at thrift stores for like some sort of metal tray, or maybe like a kid's meal tray and like a chrome or a fun color or something, so that I can put my little gears that I give out and I can look like I'm sorting them. I can kind of like play with them and then pick one out and give it to somebody, so I can have this whole little interactive situation going on. I'm just really excited. That's why I love being a Jawa, because it makes people smile, and I always have a lot of good interactions with people when I'm in costume. So that's coming next whenever I find something suitable at the thrift store. But until then, I'm excited to get some use out of this. And honestly, so far, my cat's like laying on it. So, bonus, it's a pet bed. And here's the final look, and it's definitely big enough for me. I could honestly probably split it and have another Jawa sit on the other side of it with me. Like, it's pretty big. So let me know what you think. Go ahead and try to make your own cosplay prop for under $5. Let me know how it goes. You can tag me on Instagram. I'd love to see works in progress, or just comment down below. I love being creative on a budget, and I want to see what other people do too. So if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to leave a like or comment or subscribe or share the video with a friend. It really helps this channel, and I really appreciate your support. That brings me to the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.